On live TV, anything can happen, and sometimes that thing is a famous person audibly passing gas into a microphone. Strap in, because this may just be our classiest work yet. These are the celebs that farted on live TV. During a 2015 broadcast of ESPN's Monday Night Countdown, former Bears coach Mike Ditka very well may have released the hounds, but he's not fessing up, according to the New York Daily News.
Was from Philly, but they got rid of me, so I'm going with the Giants.
Well, let's see if the Giants...
Word of Fartgate rumbled through mainstream media, with Bleacher Report calling Ditka's alleged underburp thunderous, and GQ analysing how he, quote, leans off his chair as proof of the poot. Ditka defended himself, telling the Chicago Sun-Times, "It wasn't me. Believe me, I'm to the point in my life where it doesn't matter." The New York Daily News claims Whoopi Goldberg is something of a serial tooter who has treated fans of The View to at least 3 on-air outbursts.
If you can't handle a fart, you can't handle me.
When Claire Danes visited the show in 2011, she intently deconstructed her Showtime drama Homeland, saying,
I think it's one of the first stories that really talks about our experience post 9/11.
Shortly after, Goldberg offered...
I was going to say... Oh, excuse me. So differential. I think I just blew a little frog out of there.
Okay, really, what are the odds Regis Philbin would let one rip next to Kelly Ripa? An unusually juicy Live with Regis and Kelly clip from 2006 went down like this.
Anyway, next week is we're doing something around here called
what is this
Kelly's
all about?
Thanks.
Alas, we all know what it's about. It's about how our bodies ultimately betray us. Live TV isn't for the faint of heart. A week after Marie Osmond reportedly passed out on Dancing with the Stars in 2007, fellow contestant Julianne Hough gamely one-upped her by making an on-air rumpus. According to the Hollywood Gossip, Hough had just caught wind of the judges' scores before she emptied her tank.
And vote for them. Call, text, log on to abc.com, do whatever you have to do. Remember, none of our stars can get through the competition without your help.
You can thank her brother Derek for laughing hardest at that fanny flapper. Larry King reportedly kicked off one live 2006 interview on a very wrong foot. In the aftermath of militant rocket fire on Israel, King asked his guests,
Get first the thoughts of Congressman Rohrabacher on what you've heard so far. You see any optimism here?
Adweek maintained this was business as usual, printing, Larry King was notorious for breaking wind on the air. But ultimately, King may actually be amused by all this noise. In 2015, he asked the Twitterverse, why is a fart funny? It was a question he also asked Rob Riggle in January 2018.
Why are farts funny?
They'll always be funny. It is low-hanging fruit, but for whatever reason, it's so juvenile it tickles everybody's funny bone.
Meanwhile, according to GQ, rumors of a flatulence problem have long dogged King, with whispers of a fan he kept under his desk to whisk away airborne antagonists, as well as a hidden fart button he used to mute trouser trumpets during live broadcasts. The latter must have gotten a lot of use, as Gawker reported King possibly farted during a Star Jones interview and while shooting a documentary for CNN. Reportedly, they stopped rolling every 10 to 15 minutes for King to clear the air. In 2010, The Mirror dutifully investigated pop star and judge Cheryl Cole's potential poot on an episode of The X Factor. The incident occurred as she sized up competitor Cher Lloyd.
It's sometimes with your stage presence and your sometimes pretending confidence, it's easy to forget that you're 17.
Mirror staffers reportedly couldn't figure out whether the suspicious sound was indeed Cole's, and OK Magazine also caught a whiff of the scandal, wondering, did anyone else hear Cheryl Cole fart after Cher Lloyd's performance? But the singer is no stranger to such accusations. In 2012, she told The Sun that she's regularly blamed for mid-air mud ducks, saying, I know they're thinking, Cheryl Cole thinks it's okay to fart on a plane as she's special, and it's so not true. There should be a sort of aerosol that can be sprayed into the air and it would pinpoint the guilty person. But as far as the X Factor goes, Cole's lucky no such product exists.
This one is most assuredly not fake fart news. During a 2017 Fox News interview with Jeanine Pirro, 2016 presidential candidate Ben Carson was enthusiastically discussing something called the Envision program, and shortly after he recited a bit of scripture, it sounded like some divine intervention swept in.
You know, the Bible says in the book of Proverbs, without a vision, the people perish. And I discovered
the nasty news nugget was overlooked by most media outlets, but at least The Daily Show caught wind of Carson's presumed pant puffer. Host Trevor Noah deadpanned,
Ben Carson didn't just fart loudly on TV, he did it while quoting scripture.
Noah goes on to say, let's not let this hilarious moment distract us from the real issue. While supporting deep budget cuts to his department, Carson is spending lavishly on dining sets, lounge furniture, and $5,000 chairs, which is not okay.
Unless that chair costs $5,000 because it has sophisticated fart-suppressing technology. In that case, it's money well spent.
On April 15th, 2019, several online publications were trying to get to the bottom of what Deadspin called a potential cough fart. This wasn't your average alleged cough fart either, because this potential cough fart was possibly perpetuated by sports commentator Max Kellerman. During an allegedly noisy conversation centered around pro basketball player Kevin Durant, Kellerman quite possibly succumbed to an on-air, off-camera high-knee hiccup. To make matters even murkier, he might have attempted to conceal the sound of his fizzling flatulence. Listen and learn.
He ain't scared of anything.
Well, is Draymond scared of something?
No, but the difference is that Draymond is usually arguing and fighting with the ref.
Here's an instant replay in case you missed it.
No, but the difference is that Draymond usually...
As Deadspin noted, and we quote, it very much sounded like someone coughed as a maneuver to cover up a fart. It did, didn't it? And the situation might be even more dire than that. One bat-eared Redditor claimed Kellerman farted a total of 7 times during the broadcast. And this intrepid fan even timestamped each presumed sphincter siren. For example, he noted that the alleged anal acoustics included a so-called little squish. Can you hear it?
On the other hand, maybe he learns his lesson early, you know?
And then there's this teachable moment, which the Redditor warns is, quote, a bit quiet. In our opinion, it's not quiet enough.
Less of an irritant than somebody...
In its own unflinching story, AOL pointed out that Kellerman had some explaining to do. And explain away he did. He appeared on the Dan Le Batard show the next day and denied that any of this ever happened.
I will say this. No, I did not fart in the set. I have farted in the past, though. That is true. But that is not one of the instances.
Well, by one Redditor's tally, it's 7 of the instances. Former NBA star Paul Pierce may have suffered his own on-air indiscretion on May 8, 2019. According to TMZ, he farted on co-host Michelle Beadle. This reportedly went down during a broadcast of Off the Clock, and Pierce's presumed past gas didn't exactly pass under the radar either. Here's how Beadle and sports analyst Jalen Rose reacted.
Nasty. Michelle Beadle smelling something in the air. This gentleman, Mr. Big Shot. That's an inside joke.
We're trapped in a room, y'all.
Following the segment, ESPN producer Mike Goldfarb gave Pierce the benefit of the doubt, tweeting that Paul may or may not have farted at the start of the taping. Doing her part to clear up any confusion, Beadle responded, no, he did, period. Judging by what we heard, that may indeed be the truth. Does the name Joe Swash ring a bell? While he's yet to make waves in America, he's evidently breaking plenty of wind on the other side of the pond. On television, no less. The English actor and TV personality is perhaps best known for his stint on the British soap opera EastEnders. He played a character named Mickey Miller, a character who, coincidentally enough, gets injured in a major gas explosion.
Mickey! No, we can't get dead! Where's Saw Mickey? She broke her ankle, Jace! Help us do something!
On February 12, 2019, it sounded like Swash really let loose on an episode of the talk show Loose Women. While opening up about matters of the heart, he was rudely interrupted by an altogether different part of his anatomy.
Some dinner, and then I would tell her what I think about her. Rather than in a letter.
This alleged flufferdoodle reverberated through social media channels, with one startled viewer tweeting, "Did Joe Swash just fart on live TV? Was he brought up with my dad in our council house?" The answer to one of those questions seems to be a resounding yes. What's more, this apparently wasn't the first time Swash emitted some thunder from down under. While filming a TV show, he also tooted his own horn while shooting an episode of the children's show The Dog Ate My Homework, which you can clearly hear in this outtake.
Ian, Captain Scott weren't from London.
Hey, whatever pays the bills. British people are embarrassed easily, a fact that actor Leslie Nielsen apparently knew how to exploit. On June 20th, 1991, the Airplane star perked up two daytime hosts with what sounded like some impromptu rump ruckus. The on-air awkwardness went down on UK morning show TV AM.
So now you really start to watch what's happening. That's the other thing about the humor is you have to pay attention to it.
The host didn't let it slide either.
You're not going to ask me to leave, are you?
Well, maybe just like to go to the little ladies' room for a while, or the little gents' room, and then maybe come back and just sort yourself
corrected
out.
that.
Later, Ulrika Johnson presented the weather in Wales, quipping,
I'm so sorry about this. We're suffering from wind here as well.
It's worth noting that Nielsen also appeared to have some trouble on the British chat show Wogan back in 1989.
I'm always associated with being, a man who has a background and education, and I'm well-mannered, and I have to protect that image.
But in the grand tradition of Pull My Finger, the late actor could have been pulling your proverbial leg. In 2015, Ted Danson told the AV Club, Nielsen had a handheld bellows-like thing that was a fart noise maker. He was relentless. Most people would do something like that, get a few laughs and put it away. He would not. Here's another working theory. Nielsen's tailwinds were genuine, and he only used this clever contraption to cover his tracks. Sadly, Nielsen took the truth and his love for potty humor to the grave. According to Snopes, his gravestone in Fort Lauderdale's Evergreen Cemetery contains one final fart joke. In lieu of the traditional RIP, Nielsen opted for Let Her Rip. A moment of silence, not a chance.
Excuse me, I don't know whether I can do this.
If there's one thing 2020 taught us, it's that former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani has had a lot of embarrassing on-screen moments. There was the infamous hair dye incident, and let's not forget when he farted during a hearing involving that year's presidential election.
I will ask that he be disciplined for that. First of all.
The woman sitting beside him, attorney Jenna Ellis, appeared a bit taken aback, as she clearly heard what America's mayor said, only it didn't come from his mouth. Fart number 2 occurred shortly after, when State Representative Darren Camilleri asked if Giuliani was seeking a pre-pardon from Trump.
The answer that I gave you is they didn't bother to interview a single witness.
Props to her for not breaking out in laughter like the rest of us. When gas escapes from the two places it can, it's either embarrassing or funny. Unfortunately for Wendy Williams, she happened to be hosting the Wendy Williams show when it happened to her.
Just a matter of time. She's not lonely. Yeah. I apologize.
The event launched a round of #Fartgate on social media in reference to Williams, and not for the first time. According to Vice, the former shock jock previously denied passing gas on camera in January 2020 and was forced to address the on-air flatulence rumor in July 2021 on Radio Andy. Wendy claimed the sound wasn't what the audience believed it to be, but rather a crew member prepping for an upcoming segment, ultimately saying,
"That keeps going around. It's so disgusting. Like, people are so weird with that. I didn't pass gas. Look."
Unless you follow politics, you may not know the name Eric Swalwell, but if you're on Twitter, there's a good chance you've heard of him for all the wrong reasons. According to the New York Post, during an interview on MSNBC's Hardball with Chris Matthews, an unfortunate sound briefly interrupted what the California Democratic congressman was saying in 2019.
Chris, so far, the evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
It's clear that there was indeed the sound of flatulence, and Swalwell paused at the moment it occurred, but the representative has since denied it. The #Fartgate dominated Swalwell's headlines, and he even went on Late Night with Seth Meyers to, among other things, deny that he dealt it.
You're claiming this is you? Absolutely not.
Yes, total exoneration.
Total exoneration.
Wood's conduct on the golf course has drawn attention over the years, and his flatulence has often taken center stage. Apparently, Woods farts while playing fairly often. One instance happened in 2009 while he was waiting on the group ahead of him at the Buick Open.
It's interesting that all 3 of his 09 wins have been in his last.
Farts make people laugh, which is a good thing. Just ask the hosts of ESPN FC's Extra Time, as one particular incident left one co-host crying laughing in August 2021. Alejandro Moreno was discussing a point when the event occurred.
Up until last year, so... you okay, Kay?
This led to Kay Murray absolutely losing it, even going so far as to wipe tears from her eyes. When Moreno asked Kay if she was okay, she replied,
"Sounds like you had something to say."
Stevie Nickel then admitted to being the culprit, playing it off as a joke.
I'm not going to say, because somebody would say whatever I said stunk, so I'm not going to do it. So I'm not going to do it.
You said plenty already.
After Phil Simms walked off the football field for the last time in January 1994, he moved into sports broadcasting alongside Jim Nantz. In January 2017, the camera cut to the two guys during a break in the AFC wildcard playoff game's third quarter. And in a potent of things to come, the sportscasters discussed the weather.
I think it's warmed up, though, Jim, just to talk about the atmosphere of the game. What do you think? Are you warmer now than you were earlier in the game? Or are you just numb?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm worried about you.
Taylor Swift, whose public persona is synonymous with class, poise, and elegance, doesn't seem like someone who would fart on television, even accidentally. However, there's some rather loud evidence that suggests that Swift did indeed break audible wind while on air. During the live pre-show for the 2015 MTV Video Music Awards, Swift introduced the premiere of her Wildest Dreams music video. But just after announcing that it starred Scott Eastwood, something else rang out.
It's our third video working together, starring Scott Eastwood. Here's the video for Wildest Dreams.
It looked like a fart and sounded like a fart, but MTV denied it was a fart. A network representative told TMZ that because of the position of Swift's microphone, there would be, quote, absolutely no possibility of it capturing that noise. Officially, the noise that sounded like a fart was chalked up to a technical glitch.